Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking for Nancy Lonsdorf. Is this the right number? Sorry. Hello, Dr.
Dr.
Lonsdorf.
Lonsdorf.
Hello, it's great to be here, Sam.
Yes, thank you. So welcome to everyone. Sorry for the late delayed beginning, but welcome to the National Creating Coherence webinar series. My name is Sam Katz, and our guest today is Dr. Nancy Lonsdorf. Dr. Lonsdorf is an integrative physician and expert in Maharshi Ayurveda with a specialty in women's health issues. She's a graduate of Johns Hopkins Medical School. Dr. Lonsdorf did her residency in psychiatry at Stanford University and has treated over 20,000 patients in her integrative practice in Washington, D.C., at the Raj in Fairfield, Iowa, and in private practice. Dr. Lonsdorf is a board certified integrative and holistic medicine, is board certified in integrative and holistic medicine, and is the recipient of the Atreya Award for Excellence in Ayurveda Practice from the Association of Ayurvedic Practitioners of North America. Dr. Lonsdorf was named one of the nation's most prominent Ayurvedic doctors by the Chicago Tribune. She has presented at numerous National Institutes of Health and academic medical conferences. She actively teaches Maharshi integrative Ayurvedic medicine to health professionals throughout the country, as well as in Fairfield, Iowa at Maharshi International University. Dr. Lonsdorf is the author of 2 books on women's health and Ayurveda. The most recent is The Ageless Women, How to Navigate the Transition Naturally for a Long Life of Vibrant Health and Radiant Beauty. The title of Dr. Lonsdorf's talk today, one which has been very popular in the past, is Sleep, Blessed Sleep, How to Get It and Why It Matters. If you would like to ask Dr. Lonsdorf a question, please email your question to questions@tm.org. Welcome, Dr. Lonsdorf. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. We look forward to your talk.
Thank you so much, Sam, and welcome everyone. I'm really excited to share with you what has become one of my absolute favorite topics, and I hope that you will actually not only enjoy hearing about sleep, but fall in love with sleep. I want you to fall in love with good sleep because it is actually the foundation of feeling good, enjoying those higher values that we're so in need of and so craving today, of feeling happy, feeling energetic, feeling calm, and feeling even loving. So sleep is the nurse of all living beings, says Ayurveda, which is the oldest continuously practiced system of medicine on the planet. And Ayurveda originated in India and is still practiced there, but now really all over the world. And Ayurveda gives us some extra tips that have not yet been discovered by Western medicine. And many of the tips that Ayurveda has, an understanding and deep understanding of the body and how it works, have been uncovered just really in the last decade or two. And I would say that sleep is one of them. Sleep is, even when I was in medical school, sleep was kind of, well, we need sleep. We're learning a bit about it. Here are the 4 stages of sleep. But really why we need sleep and what happens in the body and the brain during sleep have been elucidated more and more. Very ingenious experiments. And I want to just tell you that one of my favorite books of this year, for me, is a New York Times bestseller called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, who's a professor at UC Berkeley. And this is a very fascinating book, and I would encourage every one of you to read it. You will gain a much greater respect for sleep than perhaps you've ever had in your life. And you will hopefully make sleep more and more of a priority, and to organize your lifestyle so that your sleep is optimal, so that your days are as energetic and fulfilling as possible. So here we have Maharshi Ayurveda, which is Ayurveda, which is consciousness-based, which is originally how Ayurveda came out. And it is coming from the same tradition, the Vedic tradition of yoga. So they come from the same deeply rooted spiritual foundation. And spirituality here we mean by the knowledge and science of consciousness. And Maharishi Ayurveda includes many approaches from the mind as well as the body. And I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite tips today for sleep. And I will say that most of what I'm sharing with you is not simply something that comes from a book or is just out there on the internet, or science or research papers, of which I've read many and they've been fascinating. But I'm sharing with you especially tips that I have found over 30 some years of practice with my patients, with myself, with colleagues, that these actually help people, and often will help people who haven't been helped by other things for their sleep, or who are rehabilitating themselves off sleeping pills, or trying to get better sleep because their memory is failing and their sleep issue is part of the problem. So I will share things that have actually worked and maybe haven't been so thoroughly researched, really cutting edge, but I'm sure that they're going to be followed up with more research soon because they're fascinating and they really work. So let's just talk a little bit about sleep. Melatonin is a popular over-the-counter hormone is that we can get in the U.S. In many countries, it's only by prescription because it's very potent, but it's also basically very safe. And melatonin is our own hormone that gets secreted in a circadian pattern, which means it cycles through the 24-hour day and night cycle. And the pineal gland deep inside the brain produces melatonin, and it starts to be produced in any appreciable amount at about 8 at night. And you see an increase, quite a dramatic increase between 8 and about 10 or 11. And then it really shoots up and it reaches its peak at 2, 3 in the morning. And then it drops pretty precipitously, maybe 5, 6 o'clock, and that allows us to wake up. Melatonin doesn't actually cause sleep, but it's a signal within the body to all the cells and coordinates the whole body with that message. It's sort of like the dinner bell. You know, you ring, they ring the dinner bell, your mother rings and all the kids run to have dinner. That's what's happening when melatonin gets secreted. All the cells go, oh, okay, it's time to shut down. It's time to get rest. And what really makes that signal powerful is the change, the delta, so to speak. The change, the sudden change from very low level to boom, all the way up to high levels. This period is when the body is getting that signal it's time to go to sleep. So that's why it's so important. The earlier we catch this wave, then the better sleep we'll have. This is what Ayurveda tells us, and it makes a lot of sense. It hasn't been researched yet that I've seen, but Ayurveda is very clear that we should go to bed early, by 10 o'clock actually, so that we are catching that wave of melatonin rising. Now, an interesting phenomenon, we know that children tend to sleep a lot, especially babies, and but even you remember when you were a teen, maybe an early teen, and when you had summer vacation, you like to sleep. I remember, I think I slept 10 and a half, 11 and a half hours. I would go to bed at 11 or stay up late reading in bed. And then I got to sleep as long as I wanted. It was like 10 or 10:30. I never got up before then in the summer. And it just felt, it was such deep, deep sleep. It was very important because we're growing as humans so fast in that time of teenage years. And the body needs all that growth hormone, which is secreted in those deep stages of sleep. So,
Dr. Lonsdorf, excuse me, are you referencing a PowerPoint slideshow right now that we should?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for reminding me to share my slides. Okay, just a second here. I have to.
Great, thank you.
Okay, you got them?
Even better, yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Here, oops, here we go. Okay, well, this was, melatonin being secreted in here in the hypothalamus, and here circadian melatonin levels. We have low in the during the day is low, and then this is the rise, the sudden rise from 8 p.m. to about 11, and then spiking up here in the middle of the night high, and then dropping off in the morning. And here's the sudden change in our melatonin level, and that's what triggers this sleep. But we see here that melatonin is secreted at high levels. This is like blood levels up until we're, 18, 20, and then it pretty rapidly drops off. 30, 40, 50, oh my gosh, 60s and 70s. It says older people produce negligible amounts of melatonin. Now, I'm not absolutely sure about that. I think some people have a really wide, this is research on the average large groups of people, but there's still individual variation. And I think that a lot of poor sleep with aging is also sleep abuse. Most people have worked very hard, they've raised kids, they've had a lot of disruption to their sleep, and maybe they don't have the best sleep habits, or they're actively doing things that disturb sleep. I wish I could say those were mostly exercising too late, close to bedtime, but more likely it's drinking too much alcohol in the evening, or it's staying up late on the computers, or etc. So we're going to talk about what things you can do to really enhance your sleep. And here's some more about not only seniors, but anybody. One of my patients presented with hyperthyroidism as insomnia. That was the only symptom that she had. And we discovered it was due to hyperthyroid. So you want to get checked out if you're having unusual sleep problems. Also, depression and anxiety, well-known causes of sleep problems. Even medications that people take, sometimes allergy medications or asthma medications or ADHD medications, they can disturb sleep. Onset of brain deterioration, such as in dementia, and then most likely for most people, just poor sleep hygiene habits, which means there's hope. We can change those and our body can start sleeping deeply again. So there are sleep stages, 4 different stages, and we go through those stages in succession. Stage 1 is the light sleep, and then stage 2, a little deeper sleep that takes us into and consolidates sleep so that we can go into these deeper layers of stage 3 and stage 4, which are very rejuvenating for the body. And we cycle through these about 4 to 5 times through the night, but in the later night, we don't get that deep sleep. That deep sleep is greater in the early hours of sleep. So you see the first 3.5 hours or so, we have a lot of this deep sleep, but in the later hours, much less. In fact, in the last 2-3 hours or 4 hours of sleep, maybe 3 hours, we don't even get any of the deeper sleep, but we get a lot of the REM sleep. And REM has its own value, which we'll be looking at. REM is rapid eye movement sleep. You've probably heard of it. That's when we dream. And these are all identified on the basis of what the electrical signals in the brain are showing. And here we capture that in an EEG recording. And we see these big slow waves. That's during the deep non-REM sleep. And then REM sleep, very fast, and awake, very fast. Those are kind of similar, but we know the body's, this is a kind of illusory reality that we experience. So we cycle through those, and REM revitalizes memory, but it also does a lot of other things we'll look at. So stage 1, we start in, then we go to stage 2, we get more deep into sleep. Stage 3 is that growth hormone, which the movie stars pay thousands of dollars a month to inject themselves to stay young and vital and look great. So we can have our own infusion of growth hormone the more of that deep sleep we get, which is another reason why Ayurveda says you want to get that first third of the sleep during the early part of the evening. Go to bed by 10 o'clock, and it predicts you will have more deep rejuvenating sleep. And that has to be tested, but it's a fascinating concept. And everything else I've seen that Ayurveda said that was tested ended up being true. So I think we need to do that research. But you can do your own research by starting to go to bed earlier and seeing how refreshed you feel in the morning. And if indeed you feel that you look fresher, you feel better throughout the day. So this deep non-REM sleep is also really critical for consolidating memory and taking the new things you learned during the day and putting them into the longer term memory. It also is important for tissue repair as athletes, or you're building up, you're starting to lift weights to build your lean muscle mass. You need that for tissue repair. It's also really important for your immune system. We create new brain cells are stimulated from that growth hormone secreted in deep sleep. So it's important for keeping our brain and our memory system young as well. Now, REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, is fascinating. We get paralyzed during that time. Our muscles don't move, so we don't act out those dreams in most cases if we don't have a sleep disorder. But magic of REM, it dissolves emotional stress. That's what they've discovered, that it has a very important role to play in our mood regulation, So it also fosters creativity. We know famous examples like in chemistry, Kekule dreamed of a snake biting his tail, and that's how he discovered that the carbon molecule, or that was a ring, it was a ring-shaped molecule. So these things, there's a lot of integration of much diverse information that can occur during our REM sleep. It's really fascinating. And the last thing I wanted to say, if you remember, when we go back here, we look at, there's much more REM sleep in the late stages. So if maybe you go to bed early, but you have to get up, or you get up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning. Well, you're going to miss like half of your REM sleep. And this is an important time and for making the brain ready to take in new information the next day. Turns out that during REM sleep, we actually clear the cache, so to speak. We remove from the temporary memory storage. We actually kind of erase and remove what was learned the day before. It's like what was important got stored in long-term memory through the earlier stages of sleep, the non-REM, and then in the morning during that REM sleep, you have to kind of clear. It's like your desktop. You worked all day and you opened all these files and you had it filled, and then you used all that information and maybe you learned a lot. But then the next day, in order to open up new files and learn new stuff, you got to close all those old files. You got to clean your desktop and your kind of immediate memory on your computer. So don't cut your morning sleep short. This is they're learning this with teenagers because they often don't get enough sleep, and their schools start too early for them, for their biorhythm, and they are not in optimal state for learning. Also because they haven't really fully prepared their brain. And another thing is alcohol. Alcohol interferes with REM sleep, as do many sleeping pills. So alcohol may help people fall asleep. So often people say, well, I need my nightcap, or I need my glass of wine so that I'll fall asleep. But it's really not helping your sleep after you go to sleep, because sleep is lighter. One tends to wake up more often. And also it interferes with this REM sleep. So it means the next day you're going to be more stressed because you didn't get rid of all your emotional stress through good dreaming sleep. So you might be more likely to want to have alcohol again. So, and then your vicious cycle of inflammation and all sorts of downstream negative effects for your sleep and your memory also. So there are other tips that I'm going to share of how to get to sleep without having that kind of side effect. So here we have sleep deprivation and weight. I mentioned basically we need to sleep enough to maintain a healthy weight. It might seem kind of paradoxical. Well, if I just sleep less and I'm active during the day, I'll burn more calories. But it doesn't work that way, because when we get sleep deprived, we have hormonal changes that cause us to want to eat more. So we get more the hunger hormone, less of the satisfaction hormone. So we have to eat more to feel satisfied the next day. and that leads to weight gain. And also it activates our sympathetic nervous system. So we're more stressed during the day and our cortisol is higher. And cortisol also itself drives more hunger and weight gain. So getting enough sleep is really critical to keeping our weight under control and also keeping insulin resistance in check. We want to make sure that we stave off diabetes, and getting enough sleep is one of the approaches. I think we'd all like to sleep like a baby, right? Except the saying goes, unless you have a baby, you think that sleeping like a baby is great. But anyway, this little baby is obviously very deeply restful, and that's the kind of rest we want to have. And it is possible. I've worked with people who have rehabilitated their sleep from 4 or 5 hours, crazy lifestyles, chasing around the globe, and ending up with near Alzheimer's and dementia from it. I'm thinking of a patient in her mid to late 60s, and she had to stop work, but she took sleep and many other things in her lifestyle totally seriously, and she over 2 to 3 years rehabilitated her sleep, and now she sleeps 7 to 8 hours, and she has her memory back. So it can be an extremely important part of staying youthful and keeping our brain intact. So one of the things that's important is light. Light regulates. We saw in that early slide how the light was coming into the brain, and that light entrains and triggers the melatonin suppression during the day, and then when light drops off at night, then melatonin is able to come up. It's a signal. But there are, with the advent of the electric light, that alone has been harmful or dangerous for our good sleep, because we tend to stay inside during the day, so we're not getting that bright light during the day that really gives our brain the message that, hey, it's daylight. And then at night, there's not that big contrast because we are in brightly lit rooms, and that suppresses melatonin. And not only that, but in the past 20 years, we're on computers and phones with this high in blue light. And now there's the type of light bulb, the LED lights that are high in blue light. And that blue suppresses melatonin, as does bright light. They both have their own independent effects. So here are just some of the things I just wanted to suggest as tips. Here's a night light. See how beautifully golden glow that light is. You want to get warm toned light bulbs, and you want to keep the lights down at night. These are actually a pair of glasses that look a lot like one that I have, and I do wear these at night because I do stay on the computer until 8, 9, 9:30, until right up to bedtime most of the time. But I having very good sleep these days, and these are part of the formula, not the whole thing, but it's part of the formula. And you can also get, as you know, you can get apps that will allow you, and sometimes are built into the computer. You can select that after like 8 at night, you have this golden light coming from your computer or your phone, or the backlight of the phone goes to black. So you're not so disturbing your brain and your melatonin secretion. So here is just a picture of the dotted line is green light, and this is plasma melatonin. So we see the green light, there's no suppression. The melatonin is nice and robust, but with blue light, it dramatically suppresses the melatonin. Do you need a bedtime? Dr. Matthew Walker, the Berkeley professor, who is a sleep researcher, I showed you his book, Why We Sleep. He suggests that we set an alarm at night to remind us to go to sleep. And indeed, I go through periods where I set my alarm on my phone here, and I signal myself, okay, I have a little alarm. Okay, time to turn the computer off, time to start getting ready for bed. And it can be very helpful because we can get lost in whatever we're doing. And we do need a bedtime. Researchers say that one of the most important, or even if they could only give one recommendation for sleep, they said keep a regular bedtime. And Ayurveda is so in line with that, or shall we say that is so in alignment with Ayurveda, which is the knowledge of life. Ayur means life and Veda means knowledge. It's just, it's like the science of life, just like we have a science of chemistry. It's the science of life forms and how they work. So anyway, we want to have regularity, and Ayurveda gives us this special Ayurvedic clock. And it tells us that there are different times of the day. Through the 24-hour cycle, we cycle through 3 different periods twice. So every 12 hours, we go through what we call dominance of a certain system, a super system of the body called the doshas. We won't go into detail on that, but the point is that between 6 and 10 is the kapha time, meaning the rejuvenating part of the body, the rebuilding, the restoring, the fixing, the repairing. That is the time that the body is most doing that. So if we can go to sleep during that, and remember, that's when melatonin starts coming up at 8 o'clock and then starting to really peak by 10 o'clock, we want to catch that wave, and then we'll have the best, deepest sleep. So we want to have that regularity, go to bed by the end of kapha time by 10, and then get up by the end of vata time by 6, and we'll have a lot more of that natural alertness and freshness in the body. Because we are part and parcel of this universal, the universe and our solar system and all the cycles within it. And they influence our hormones like melatonin and all our hormones, especially women, the menstrual hormones, the whole reproductive cycle. And we have seasonal rhythms as well, which is another fascinating topic. So here are some Ayurvedic tips for better sleep. Putting a little oil. Oil has magical powers for calming the nervous system. And there's research on that. It actually, sesame oil, for example, applied to the skin has been shown to protect the nerves. And oil poured gently on the forehead lowers the sympathetic tone. It increases the parasympathetic. And here, oil. Ayurveda says put a little oil, a little coconut oil ideally, on your bottoms of your feet at bedtime. Bottoms of your feet and your top of your head and your ears. You don't have to do your whole hair. That takes a lot to get that oil out in the morning. But just rubbing some into the scalp. You rub a little coconut oil and then you just rub it under the scalp like that, and on the ears, maybe the neck, the feet and the ankles. By the way, Ayurveda says that'll help prevent, problems with your feet and ankles. And interestingly, we're going to talk a little bit today about sleep in the 21st century and the extra challenges we have now. We've talked about light. We're going to talk about something else. We're going to talk about electricity, actually. So oil, it turns out, this is fascinating to me because, and it can be fascinating to you because you can try this and see with your own body as the kind of instrument of experimentation. So you can put this oil on, and at night, if you feel like you're having trouble going to sleep, and maybe you're kind of wound up, or maybe if you're certain types of people are prone to get, like if they traveled or they did a lot of exercise or work, kind of, they might feel agitated or like their nervous system is a little bit buzzy. So putting oil on the body, on the skin, can immediately calm those nerves. And all of a sudden the whole body feels smooth instead of feeling like jittery or agitated. And the head and the feet are the most important, Ayurveda tells us, because they're like the whole body is connected through the feet and represented in the feet. And then the head, of course, with the brain, it's the source of all this nervous system activity. So, and it turns out that oil is a good insulator. It does not conduct electricity because it's not polar. So we don't have to go into the chemistry of that, but it doesn't conduct electricity, and our nerve endings are, all this nerve activity is electrical activity. And what we're just kind of really seriously calming the conduction down. We're just settling the nerves physically through applying the oil. Very, very immediate effect that you will feel. And this is how it works. And it's a very ancient recommendation. Now, another recommendation Ayurveda has is for this light. It turns out that when we have light in the morning, it especially helps give us that predictable melatonin rise in the evening. It supports increased melatonin production at night. And Ayurveda says that we should take that walk in the morning or go outside in the morning. Research shows that actually 20 minutes of light before noon, even without exercising in the light outdoors, has a significant effect to normalize body mass index, body weight. So people who get outside in the morning control their weight much more easily than those who don't go outside, even when they control for the same number of calories in the day and the same amount of sleep at night. Very fascinating research from Northwestern University. But here we have Ayurveda telling us years ago, this is a great Ayurvedic physician and all his students around in the forest. And one of his students asked, is there anything that, is like a panacea for health? And the great Vaidya Charaka said, yes, wake up early in the morning and take a walk in the light of the rising sun. Suitable for all ages, can be done in all seasons with proper gear, and everywhere in the world does not cost anything. So try it. I'm telling you things today that, will, if you start to implement these, they're going to benefit your whole body health as well as your sleep. And there's, millions of things you can buy on the internet, supplements, and most of them don't help most of my patients in my experience. But these kind of whole life changes do make a difference. Here's another simple thing you can do. Take a hot bath before bed. Now, isn't that paradoxical? I'm saying temperature, keep it cool, and then I'm saying take a hot bath. Well, it turns out that the hot bath brings your blood to the surface because your body starts to try to get rid of heat. So when you get out of the bath, you actually dissipate heat from your body quite quickly. And it helps drop your body temperature, which is an essential part of going to sleep. So if you have trouble getting to sleep, you could try the hot bath, and also keeping your bedroom cool and maybe doing other things just to cool off before bed. And also don't exercise too close to bedtime if you have trouble getting to sleep, because that heats your body as well. So people, even healthy people not with sleep problems, will fall asleep 20% faster with proper cooling of their body. And a little side benefit is it increases that restorative deep sleep where we get the growth hormone and we remember better from it by 10 to 15% just by taking the hot bath before bed. Isn't that fascinating? And for those of you who know Ayurveda, do the oil massage before you take that hot bath. You can apply oil all over your body and then jump in the bath, and then you've got a double sleep support going. So, and Ayurveda says, without proper diet, medicine of no use. With proper diet, medicine of no need. One of my very favorite aphorisms. And just meaning, don't eat too much in the evening that you have indigestion. Don't eat too late because the digestive process also can keep you awake. So, good to eat your dinner by 7 and crawl into bed by 10. Just some nutrients I wanted to quickly mention. Magnesium can help people fall asleep. Many people are actually deficient in magnesium, and that increases stress and cortisol and decreases the calming neurotransmitters in the brain. So taking magnesium can be helpful for sleep. Serotonin, we've heard a lot about that. Serotonin is the direct precursor, the pre-molecule to melatonin. 90% is created in the gut, which gives us indication that we've got to attend to our gut health as well for best sleep. If we have indigestion or we've got gas, bloating, poor digestion, then that can affect sleep. And probiotics may be also helpful. And interestingly, some foods, cherries, especially those cultivated in Spain, contain various levels, depending on the brand and the season and where it was grown, of serotonin and melatonin. So you can get those naturally by having cherries. And it's been studied scientifically. It increases speeds up the time it takes to fall asleep and helps promote better sleep. 5-HTP or L-tryptophan, there's all sorts of research on that. That can be helpful for people with their mood as well as with sleep. And too much detail to go into, but it's something you could ask your doctor about. Now, we know about the idea that L-tryptophan, which is an amino acid, meaning it's a component of protein, that we say, oh, well, maybe, warm milk at bedtime is an Ayurvedic tradition. And many people are going for the golden milk now, which means the turmeric added, which is anti-inflammatory. And then we see some cardamom seeds here, which are also balancing and traditional in Ayurveda, some ginger root here, cinnamon. So, golden milk, can that give good sleep? And we've heard, well, tryptophan is high in milk. So it can, and maybe just the warmth, and sometimes having something with carbohydrate as well as with protein at bedtime can help sleep, because carbohydrate tends to promote melatonin and good melatonin, serotonin. There's also something that's in milk is a protein called lactalbumin, and human milk, actually mother's milk, 22% of the proteins are alpha lactalbumin, and they're very promoting of melatonin. So that's probably one reason why babies sleep so well when it nurses, and when it wakes up, if it nurses, it falls back asleep. It's not just that it was hungry and it got food, but there's actually sleep promoting elements and proteins within mother's milk. Cow's milk has a little bit, maybe 1/7 of what's in human milk, but whey protein, even from cow's milk, whey protein has 17%, almost as much as human milk. So possibly, I think, whey protein may be something, if you need a protein supplement and you tolerate it, that may be something in the evening also that would help you get better sleep. Omega-3s also have been shown to promote good sleep. One can get it from algae supplements if you are vegetarian, and that carries a fair amount of DHA. And shown, a study in school children showed that higher levels of these omega-3s gave better sleep as well as better memory and even higher IQ. All right, so 21st century, in search of deep sleep, I think that the degree of memory problems today, degree of sleep problems, yes, memory problems too, is epidemic. And when I took a trip to California and saw young people, a lot of young people in consultations about 5 years ago, I was pretty shocked that I saw quite a few 20-somethings who were having insomnia. And that's something I usually hear from my, patients in their 40s at the youngest, and much more in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. But even very young people. So it made me start to think, well, what's going on? How are they living their life? What's impacting them that they're having so much trouble falling asleep when they still they're supposed to be still on the top of that melatonin curve. If you remember, that melatonin is much higher blood levels at night in our younger years, especially through the 20s. So today, 27% of adults say that most nights they have trouble sleeping, and 68% say at least once a week. Actually, the Gen X women who are in their 40s to 55 are the least likely to get at least 7 hours of sleep these days, maybe because of hormonal changes and many other demands. So I wanted to bring up something because I have recently found in 2 patients that this electrical grounding actually made a difference with their sleep. And when they'd had very long-term light sleep, waking up, sometimes trouble falling asleep, you know, really kind of having to work on their sleep really hard. And even though they're going to bed early and doing a lot of the right things, they weren't sleeping well. And this taking care of the electrical system made the difference for them. Now they're sleeping great, 8 hours, sometimes 9 hours, without any problems. And that was within about a month. So what is electrical grounding? Well, here's just one study. It was an initial pilot on 12 adults, and it measured their blood cortisol levels and also their reports of their sleep. And sleeping on a mat that was plugged into the wall with a grounding cord to pull electrons off the surface and off the surface of the body was used. So they slept on top of this mat with a sheet over it. So it was fine. It was comfortable, not invasive. And it reduced their cortisol at night. Now, cortisol and melatonin are in direct opposite correlations. So when melatonin goes up, cortisol is going down. So cortisol is at its lowest at that 2 and 3 in the morning when melatonin is at its peak. And then melatonin drops to nothing in the morning practically, and cortisol rises. So having less cortisol at night is a good thing because it means we're going to have better melatonin. Now, this was a very convincing study to me, very fascinating. It was published in a very reputable journal called Neonatology. Neonatology is newborns. And these were premature infants, and they studied 20 of these newborns who were in incubators in the neonatal intensive care unit. And these little babies are very sensitive. I mean, they can experience a lot of stress, and that stress can cause a very dangerous condition called necrotizing enterocolitis. Like their inside of their gut gets inflamed and it actually can die off. That's very something very important that they're trying to avoid. So they were very motivated to think, how can we reduce stress on these little sensitive beings? And they went and they measured, and they saw that they found that there was actually high EMF inside the incubator. Not so much out in the room, but inside the incubator, because they were hooked up to all these different machines. And on the skin of the babies, there was a measurable 60 hertz fluctuation of electrical current, which is what, you know, is coming from our outlets here. We have 60 hertz alternating current. So then they measured how high that was. They quantified it. And they found that the higher the skin voltage, then, well, what they found, they measured it, and they measured that and compared it to vagal tone. VT is vagal tone, and that means like how much fight or flight activity is going on. Is the baby relaxed or is the baby stressed, basically? And what they found is high levels of this skin voltage were associated with stress, with low levels of parasympathetic activity, vagal tone. They were, on the contrary, high skin voltage, high stress. And what they found is when they grounded, they put this little mat under the baby and they grounded him. The babies improved in their vagal tone dramatically. And they measured before, so high skin voltage, high stress. Then they measured during. Skin voltage went diminished to a fraction, and the vagal tone, or the stress level, also. And then afterwards, when they took the grounding away, everything returned to what it was before. So they concluded that electrical grounding calms the nervous system, basically, and may improve resilience to stress and lower the risk of neonatal morbidity, meaning, disease and in preterm infants. So there is some initial evidence that our nervous system reacts to these electrical signals, and some people more than others. Some people will have sensitive nervous systems and other people won't be so sensitive. But if you're having trouble sleeping and you're trying everything and you're not doing obvious things that disturb your sleep that you need to immediately change, you might want to try something like this. And here is a company that sells this. I don't have any connection with any of these products today, but I'm just sharing with you what I've learned through my patients. So Ultimate Longevity is the website. You can check it out. I think they may have a 30-day policy of return, so you could always try it. And if it helps your sleep, you'll know it within a few nights. And if it's not going to help your sleep, you can send it back. One of my patients, I'm just going to share this with you. A lot of people are using their phones and other things to try to track their sleep. And she didn't want a phone in her bedroom, and she didn't want Wi-Fi or Bluetooth transmitting from her head during the night. Very wise woman. She found and researched, this is not the cheapest one. It's a few $100s. It's at dream.com, dream spelled with 2 E's. No Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and it tracks how much time you spend in deep sleep, or REM sleep. And she finds that feedback very helpful. And she's come off Ambien, which she was on for over 20 years, sleeping pill. And she's cut her evening wine down from 3 to 4 glasses, a half a bottle a night. Now she's down to like 1 glass or 1/2. She's going to get off it entirely. But she's been working on this. She's on a low carb diet, got off all her sugar. In February, I guess that was the blessing of COVID for her. She just started to take her health really seriously. She's lost 25 pounds and she's starting to sleep well. And she was so excited the other night because she got an hour and a half in deep non-REM sleep, which she had not been getting virtually any before that. So she's on her way to real rejuvenation. Now, here's another thing you can think about. In Sthapatya it's called. It's the science of architecture in the Vedic tradition of yoga. The recommendation is to make your house as natural as possible. I don't think they had electricity back then, about 5,000 years ago, unless that knowledge got lost and Edison rediscovered it. But what would be recommended now is that your bedroom can be on a separate circuit. Some people building houses according to that architecture have a little switch in their bedroom. They turn it off and it turns off it cuts off all the power to the circuits in their bedroom while they sleep. And I have at least one patient whose sleep dramatically improved within the first night when he started to flip off this switch that was to his bedroom. And so right before bed, he goes over to the circuit box and he flips the switch. So the power is off in his bedroom. If you need something in your bedroom, you really need something, you could probably do an extension cord from a plug just outside your bedroom and then have something in there. But this is the ultimate unplug, is you just get rid of all the electricity. And the last thing I wanted to share with you is my favorite sleep herbs. These are products of Ayurveda, Maharishi Ayurveda. There's a website, Maharishi Ayurveda Products International. It's called MAPI. I'll show that link in a minute. But they have 3 products that I've been using in my practice for over 30 years. Blissful Sleep actually has research on it. And similar to a hot bath at night, you take Blissful Sleep at bedtime. In a pilot study done at UC SD, they discovered in 25 healthy people, even though they didn't have particularly sleep problems, they fell asleep 17 minutes faster on average with Blissful Sleep. So that's pretty significant. Stress-free mind. In my experience, this is a good one. If you wake up in the early morning hours, 3, 4 o'clock, can't get back to sleep, I recommend chewing it up so you don't have to deal with something getting stuck in your throat in the middle of the night. But just chew a couple of these stress-free mind, and most of my patients are finding it helps them get back to sleep 4 out of 5 nights or something like that, even within 10, 15 minutes. It just relaxes the body. It has Bacopa and Brahmi, and go to kola and ashwagandha and other herbs, and the combination, Ayurveda says the synergy of herbs together is what's especially potent. And this is a very powerful synergy, and it uses fresh squeezed juice from fresh herbs. It's not only dried herbs. Stress-free mind and stress-free emotions are special formulas that use fresh squeezed juice from the plant as well, which adds extra power. Stress-free emotions, most amazing product that I know to calm emotions. If you're going to go to bed and you're wound up because of something that happened at work or something someone told you or something on the news or something, and there's a lot of somethings these days, you might want to just take 2 stress-free emotions. And I have a feeling for people who wake up early in the night, like they go to bed at, maybe they go to bed at 10 or 11, but they wake up at 12:30 or 1. Well, that's Ayurveda tells us the pitta time. So that's the time you want to have calmed your emotions. You could take stress-free emotions then, but I think you just take it at bedtime, and that will probably help you sleep through that pitta time, which is 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So mapi.com is a place for those herbs. And you can also visit my website. Handling your stress and optimizing your digestion are also key to improving sleep. So at drlonsdorf.com, or if that's too hard, it's Dr. Nancy Health, HEALTH, drnancyhealth.com. You can take a quiz and you'll learn about your stress type according to Ayurveda and your digestion type. And then you'll get a tip each week for about 6 weeks that you can slowly integrate some changes into your life based on your own type, your own way of being in balance. All right, that was what I wanted to share with you. And I hope we have some questions. And
Well,
Sam?
Dr. Lonsdorf, we only have about 40 or 50 questions. So we may actually take this webinar all the way into our sleep state because it's going to take so long. No, but we'll, if you have it, we have about, maybe we can take about 15 minutes or so and go through some of these questions. If anyone has questions, they can send them to questions, that's plural, questions at tm.org. You can also just put them in the Zoom chat box as well. Well, where to start, Dr. Lonsdorf? How about one of the questions that came up from several people has to do with sleep apnea. Please comment on the epidemic of obstructive sleep apnea, the issues with CPAP treatment, and the possibility of using oral appliance therapy as an alternative.
Okay, that's a really good question. I just see people are asking for this website. So I'm going to just share my screen so you can look at the links for a little bit and write them down, and I can talk over that. Just a minute here. There's the website to buy the herbs. Okay. Where are we? Okay, so you were asking about sleep apnea and the CPAP versus the oral appliance therapy. And yes. What was the specific of that question, just to comment about it?
Well, it was just if you could comment on sleep apnea issues, if there's any recommendations for that, and the use of CPAP treatments and the possibility of using oral appliance therapy as an alternative.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing is if you have sleep apnea, you need to treat it. It is a very big risk factor for stroke and heart attack and for memory loss. It's a big stress on the brain and the whole body not to have a proper oxygenation during the night. So you have to do something. And I think the best thing is to work with your doctor. If you don't like what they gave you and you think maybe you're a candidate for an oral device, then go seek that out, and you just have to try it, and then you have to verify that it works. There are home monitors that you can get on the internet, and they actually will send it to you. You can hook yourself up overnight, and it'll record your oxygen levels during the night, and you can send it back and they'll read it for you. Even a doctor will read it. So between you and the internet and your doctor and maybe your local hospital, many hospitals have sleep apparatus that you can get your, Medicare or your insurance will cover you taking it home and using it at home, and then bring it back and it's recorded. And then they will give you the reading. You don't actually have to go to the hospital anymore and sleep in those horrible lab rooms. So I just think, just fix it. Don't ignore it, because it's going to damage your health. And losing weight, maybe that's an angle, is to just lose weight. Sometimes losing 10, 20 pounds is enough to open that airway more. But don't ignore it. That's my advice.
Okay, good advice. Many questions. The next one, another question that several people had is they're having trouble. They have no problem falling asleep, but they're constantly getting up through the night. 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. They don't wake up feeling refreshed. And it could be maybe an hour, 2 hours or more for them to fall back asleep. Any recommendations there?
Well, I gave one of my favorite recommendation right now is Stress-Free Mind, to take 2 of those. But check with your doctor before you take any new herbs. And I don't know your medical condition. So if you have medical conditions or take drugs or medications, then you want to check with your doctor about these things. And let me find where I can stop sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. Also, sometimes people will do some stretches on the bed, or they'll just get on the floor. They'll do a little yoga, or you can do pranayama, which is breathing that also calms your nervous system, which is, alternate nostril breathing. I won't instruct you here, but you can find it on the internet anywhere, or your yoga teacher has probably taught you already. Or with TM, you've learned it on a retreat. You've learned how to do that. So pranayama is something that calms you down. Sometimes people will even sit up in bed and meditate for a while, and that will shift their system and help them fall back asleep. So there are a lot of different tricks. Also, just trying to figure out what might be causing that. Like if you're staying up too late, then maybe you're going to wake up more often. If you drink too much at night or too much liquid later in the day, that might disturb you. Sometimes toxicity, like if you have mold in your house, or you have inflammation in your brain, that can cause more urination at night. It can cause you to wake up and have disturbed sleep. Medications can do that. So if you're basically a healthy person and you think you're doing everything right and you're still waking up, probably some of those natural things might be helpful. And be sure you're going to bed early. And that's a vata time, to wake up like 3 or 4 and not be able to get back to sleep. So you want to address your vata, and you can find recommendations for that. If you go to my website and take the quiz at drlonsdorf.com, you want to make sure that you check that you worry or you have trouble sleeping, and then you'll get tips for balancing vata.
Okay. Since you started answering that last question, there are 25 new messages. So one question is, you've mentioned meditation, and are there different kinds of meditations, and what do you recommend?
Well, there are a lot of different meditations. I think, there's about as many meditations as yoga teachers these days, but, I'm a medical doctor, and I like data, and I also have experienced myself practicing transcendental meditation since I was a teenager. And, as a physician, the research on TM for health and for calming the nervous system and having global effects for improving, cardiovascular health, improving metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance, and just overall helping to counteract that fight or flight and stress that we deal with and are so prone to in our modern life. I think transcendental meditation is the best for the mind body together. And there are many meditations and many purposes of meditation. And it may be that you have other kinds of meditation you enjoy, or a spiritual practice or prayer. Transcendental meditation can be done 20 minutes twice a day. I think of it as like a health practice. And it's also going to evolve your consciousness. Whatever else you do, it's just going to benefit from that practice. Just my advice is, don't mix them. When you sit to do one meditation, don't mix 3 of them together, because you won't get the full benefit of any of them, and probably none of the benefit of any of them. So, do them in their integrity. And I recommend transcendental meditation. It's that practice twice a day, and you can find a lot of research on it. And tm.org is a fascinating website. I love to watch the videos there, actually, of the before and the after of these ADD kids you think would never be able to sit and close their eyes and relax. And they do. And the transcendental meditation works for them. It's very easy and effortless. Even fidgety kids calm down and they find it easy to do. So you can too.
Thank you. Another question is about taking naps during the day. Some people aren't sleeping well. It's the afternoon and they have a little extra time and they could take a cat nap for half an hour or an hour. Do you recommend that?
I think 20 to 30 minutes, it depends on, it can be okay. But if it gets too late in the afternoon and too long, it will interfere for most people with their falling asleep, going to bed early, getting good sleep at night. So probably doing that no later than 4 o'clock. It's 3:30. And don't make it long. Some people, actually Ayurveda recommends for daytime sleep that you actually sleep kind of propped up. You don't get too comfortable, you don't lie down, you don't sleep too long. Creates stagnation in the body, as well as disturbing potentially sleep later.
Very good. Thank you. Another question is, let's see, there's so many. I have to work a full-time night shift. Would my REM and melatonin cycle adjust accordingly?
I haven't studied that. I did see a graph, and I didn't study it carefully, but I think it does shift. It doesn't like become totally different. It doesn't like, okay, well, you're going to have melatonin peaking in the daylight hours and falling off, but it does shift. Your body tries to adjust.
I see. Good. You mentioned oil massage. There are a couple of questions. One question is, could we use jojoba oil? In addition, you mentioned coconut and olive oil. And another person who asked about that said, would that replace their morning oil massage?
Those who are doing a morning oil massage, I just encourage you to keep doing it. It's so fabulous. It's actually in the morning. It's more protects you the whole day from, I think, even from some of that EMF effect. And you also are moving the lymph. You're encouraging circulation after the night of kind of stagnancy. So Ayurveda says the best time for the full value of full body oil massage is in the morning before you take the shower, which then kind of that hot water opens the channels, and all those impurities you kind of help to start moving out while they can be carried away through the hot bath or hot shower. So it's kind of a mini cleansing every morning. So I encourage you to do that. But this is an extra thing, and you don't have to sit down on the floor and do your whole body, and you don't have to do all the strokes of those familiar with the oil massage, but you just take a little, and you can just even rub some. If you're really kind of jittery, you can rub it a little thin coat everywhere. Just put it everywhere. It take you a half a minute to rub it in. Even if you don't do your head, because maybe you don't have time to get the oil out in the morning, but do your feet and the rest of the body, and it will calm you down. The head is amazing, though. If your head is racing and thoughts are racing, and you put oil in your head, they're not going to race anymore. It's weird, but it works.
A very practical question regarding oil massage is, what do you do to make sure that the oil doesn't get over all of your clothes and your bed and your sheets and your pillow? And
Sam, did you put that question in?
I did not, but I did recommend that they could mail their laundry to you, and you could help them with it.
No, it reminds me of when I first learned about oil massage, and yes, I was concerned about those things. But you know, that's why I'm recommending the coconut oil. It's traditional for bedtime anyway in Ayurveda, but coconut oil comes out pretty easily in the wash. Sesame oil doesn't. Sesame has a resin in it. A resin is a sticky substance, which is probably why it's so good at purifying the body, but it is not good for your clothes and your sheets and all that. But coconut or olive oil, pretty much it'll come out in the wash. So if you want, you can add there's something called Arm & Hammer super washing soda, not just their plain, but super washing soda. And that will pull oil out. Even the sesame oil with hot water will usually get it out. But yeah, I think most of us doing Ayurvedic oil massage with sesame oil over decades have ruined many clothes and sheets and towels and things. So I usually mostly use olive oil these days just for that purpose.
Very good. A few people who are watching are using Ambien for sleep, and they would like to get off of Ambien, and they're wondering if there's any recommendations for kind of weaning yourself off of Ambien or other medications.
Yeah, I think weaning is the word. You know, it's better than to try to just go cold turkey. When your body is used to some input coming in, you know, it's adjusted. Okay, so maybe it's pulled back certain things it would do to help you sleep because it doesn't need to. So I would say talk to your prescribing doctor. Those are prescription medications, and get a weaning program from that doctor. And in the meantime, you know, maybe you want to look into blissful sleep, and
The
you know, some of the herbals.
Yeah, the herbal MAPI herb, MAPI. Okay.
And all these other things, you know, going to bed earlier, you know, don't drink the alcohol. Like my patient was drinking a half a bottle of wine every night and the Ambien. So, you know, but the wine was disturbing sleep because it disrupts the sleep during the night.
Another question that came in from, I think there's 3 or 4 people asked about the magnesium. Do you have a recommendation for a certain type? Is magnesium citrate, magnesium oxide?
Yeah, and somebody saying blissful sleep doesn't work for her. And none of these things are going to work for everyone. That's the thing. Everybody's so different, and sleep is so multifactorial. So many things have to go right to give us a good night's sleep. So you got to find the thing that's going to be working for you, or maybe it's 8 things all together. That's why I was excited to find this electrical connection, because that was like a missing link for some of my patients. So I'm sorry, you asked me something. I shouldn't be reading these questions when they come in.
Oh, well, you're reading them come up. Do you see any that you would like to answer? That
No, I can only see the first few words. So Sam, what did you just ask me? I'm sorry.
Well, I was just asking you, let's see, I've been reading them
About
all myself as
and
well.
then we were
Yes.
talking about.
Yes. Well, let's go on to, let's see. Well, you know, I was asking about
Magnesium. They were asking about magnesium.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Citrate,
Carol.
okay. Citrate, magnesium citrate tends to be the most laxative form. So if you have constipation problems, you might want to take magnesium citrate. Otherwise, there are many other forms. Some are, you know, you have to try. Sometimes people will feel indigestion from one form and will be fine with another. There's a brand that I use a lot with patients. It seems to be pretty easy on the stomach, called Country Life, and it comes in capsules. And it's a mix of carbonate and glycinate and other chelated forms of magnesium.
There was another question about women who are having hot flashes at night, and that's waking them up, keeping them from sleeping easily.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of different approaches for that. You know, you might want to get my book, The Ageless Woman. The Ageless Woman, I talk about all the issues of balancing yourself, especially at perimenopause and early menopause, to balance your doshas out so you can minimize the symptoms. And it's kind of a bigger topic than I could say right now, but you might want to get The Ageless Woman by Nancy Lonsdorf, and it's on Amazon. And yeah, there's a lot of things, you know, in the public press, you can read also, no alcohol, less sugar, and maybe you're doing all those things, going to bed earlier. There's also hormone replacement therapy is not as dangerous as it was once thought if it's given with bioidentical hormones, and it's given, or estrogen has to be given through the skin. Progesterone is better to be given by mouth or intravaginally. There's a whole science of it, and things can be a lot safer if they're done properly. So, and in fact, giving hormones around perimenopause there's some accumulating data that it might help prevent, be protective for the heart and even possibly the brain later in life. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. So if you got intractable hot flashes, that's also a standby option.
Well, that's great. We only have 60 questions left, so I think it's actually time to draw to a close. But thank you so much, Dr. Lonsdorf. This is obviously an area of information, a whole study that people have such a need for, and your recommendations are just priceless. They're absolutely wonderful. We all know what it's like when our sleep becomes more regular and deeper sleep. And so you're getting a lot of, as you'll see, a lot of great appreciation.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad it was helpful. And I just encourage you to go ahead and work on your sleep and fall in love with your sleep. Read this book. If you're a writer or love prose, this guy is really creative. He writes with a lot of wit and creativity and beautiful, funny prose. Very creative guy. I guess it's because he sleeps so much, that REM sleep, increases creativity. So
Very good.
Thanks a lot.
I should mention that tomorrow at the same time, 11 o'clock Central Time, we have Vicki Alexander Harriet, who will be giving a talk on the art and science of giving and receiving feedback. We all want our useful suggestions and advice to be heard. And this particular talk will focus on methods supported by research in social psychology to ensure that our feedback is delivered and received in the most productive and supportive way. We'll be learning how to overcome resistance to giving feedback, creating receptivity in those with whom you're giving feedback, recognize triggers that block receptivity, and also the use of all feedback, even feedback we don't agree with, as a means to grow and learn more about ourselves. That's on the same Zoom channel at 11 a.m. tomorrow, Sunday, at the Zoom channel at 11 a.m. So, Sunday.
Can I ask one quick question? Does that mean they click the same link that they clicked today?
Yes, exactly. The exact same link. That's
okay.
right.
And then people are asking how they get the replay.
Yes, and that's the other thing. So to watch the replay, go to miutalks.org, miutalks.org. This particular replay will be archived there permanently. It takes about 3 to 5 days to get it online there, but that's where you can find this one. And Dr. Lonsdorf has another talk as well at that same address. The other event that is taking place on Sunday, tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time, is there is a talk on a different Zoom channel, and it's a talk called What's Love Got to Do with It? An interview with a leadership expert, Steve Farber. Steve Farber is a leadership consultant and best-selling author. His business books include Greater Than Yourself, The Radical Edge, and The Radical Leap. And he has been named, the book has been named one of the 100 best business books of all time. Mr. Farber will be discussing how love is increasingly being recognized as the basis of great leadership, and therefore the very foundation of a thriving competitive enterprise. And that's at 4 p.m. And to find the Zoom link for this particular talk, go to tmevents.org. You can find the Zoom link there to that one, as well as all of the other upcoming events as well. tmevents.org. That's tomorrow on TM Talks, 4 p.m. Central Time. Once more, thank you so much, Dr. Lonsdorf. It was wonderful. And as you can see, you're getting more and more appreciation there on the Zoom chat. And we look forward to your next talk. This is just the second of many, we hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Bye now. you.